Reading 135 from the Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Dr. Maurice Nicoll, Volume 3. Great Amel House, August 28, 1948. On identifying with your part in life. Work idea. The work teaches that whatever we do consciously belongs to us, and whatever we do mechanically is lost to us. Commentary. One can live one's life consciously or mechanically. To do anything consciously means that one is not identified. To do the same thing mechanically means that one is identified, in which case it is rather that the thing does you than that you do the thing. In order to understand the work and re-understand it, and again re-understand it, and so on, over and over again, until the work stands upright in one's being, like a tree, and brings everything into right order and relation, and so into harmony. In order to understand the work, it is useful to remind oneself frequently of the illustrations given by way of commentary. Take the illustration that we are all down here on this planet, each with a part to play, but we have all fallen asleep, and instead of playing our part, as an actor does, we have taken the part as ourselves. That is, we have identified with our part, and so become it. For to identify means to make yourself the same as, which is much the same as saying to become something that is not you. Imagine an actor who, dressed as a king on the stage, suddenly thinks he is actually a king, and walks out in his robes and crown into the street. It is something like what has happened to humanity. Once awake, it fell asleep. And in teaching that humanity is asleep, the work adds that as long as humanity remains asleep, nothing can be done to make things better on this earth. Man must awaken from sleep. But although humanity as a whole remains asleep and cannot awaken, individual people can try to awaken from sleep and may succeed. Now, to begin to take your life consciously is one way of beginning to awaken. For example, if you do not go with your negative emotions at a particular moment, there will be a loss on one side and a gain on the other. The mechanical side will lose force, and there will be a gain on the conscious side. This struggle is always going on in a person who begins to understand the work practically. Whenever you do not go with your mechanical reaction to life and people, there is a gain of force on the conscious side. You are then taking your life consciously instead of mechanically, as everyone else does. As the work idea quoted at the beginning of this paper says, whatever we do consciously is ours, but what we do mechanically is lost. You will see, in the light of this remark, that in the case of two men leading much the same lives outwardly, one ends up with nothing and the other with much. Why? Because the first man lets his part play him, while the second man plays his part consciously. The first man was not conscious of what he was doing. The second was conscious, even though both of them were doing the same thing. Now, you do not have to go into a monastery or ascend a physical mountain to live your life more consciously. This work, this method of awakening, is for those in life. And life furnishes the material to work on. But here comes in a difficulty that may take years to see and that some hardly ever see. It is not exactly that external life furnishes the material to work on, although this is true. It is rather that the way you take external life is the material to work on. Life is a changing kaleidoscope of events, always turning. The difficulty is that people take life and their reactions to life as the same thing. They find it difficult to realize that the same incident in outer life, such as a thunderstorm, is not the same as their mechanical reaction to it, and does not affect everyone in the same way as it affects them. That is, the storm, which is part of outer life at the moment, and is a neutral, impersonal thing, and their mechanical reactions to it, which are personal, say alarm, seem identical to them. Can you grasp what is meant? Some people enjoy storms. A storm, that is, an event in life, can produce different reactions in different people. Well, it is upon these mechanical reactions in oneself that one must begin to work by practicing non-identifying in all the work teaches. So you will see that it is not exactly identifying with external life and its continual procession of different troubles and complexities, called events, that one has to work upon, but upon how one takes these events and incidents and troubles. That is, upon how one mechanically reacts to them. But, as was said, few people reach this idea save after long years. Now people who have heard all this before say, what is our part in life? How do we know what it is? The answer is this. At first, everything that happens to you is your part, and you have to do it consciously. Deal with it consciously, as if it were something told you to act on the stage. Later, you will see what belongs to the law of accident and what to the law of fate. But at present, begin by taking everything that comes to you as work. That is, not identifying, if you can, remembering yourself, not thinking that it is someone's fault, and so hating, etc. A little well-formed ship riding up and down the waves of life is a good illustration of what has to be done eventually to understand why we are on earth. That is, not to identify with all the troubles that come. Some people think that life should be wonderful, but life cannot be so, because there is always second force of opposition to what you want. If you are wise, you begin to see it is no one's fault. Say, as husband and wife, etc., that things do not go as you think they should. I often think that badly life-trained people think they are entitled to happiness without understanding that it has to be earned by hard work on oneself. People are becoming even more asleep than used to be the case.